All right, welcome back to my channel. My name is Manny, call me Manny.com, independent musician based out of Boston, Massachusetts, currently living in South Florida. This video is something that I have called a reason session breakdown, where I'm gonna give you a little bit more detail on how I made the beat for my most recent song, Ghost. And I've never done a style of video like this before, so definitely give me your feedback inside of the comment section below on what are your thoughts on it. What I'm going to do in this video is really kind of just show you how I turned an idea into a song in general. I probably won't get into too much detail on all of the little granular things in production and engineering because that would take forever, to be honest. But I will just kind of talk to you about what was going on in my mind in the process and how I take an idea into a release. And so, again, different style of video. My inspiration for this kind of video actually came from Jacob Collier. He's an English musician who's like unbelievably talented in my opinion, just like insanely smart music theory, expert musician. Wish I had his mind to be able to listen and hear and understand music language the way he does. So I'm definitely not going to be as in depth as he does. He does something called Logic Session Breakdowns. He uses a DAW, which is a digital audio workspace called Logic, owned and operated by Apple. I use a DAW called Reason. So I guess a little bit different, but this is kind of where I got the inspiration from. I saw him do a Logic Session Breakdown on some of his songs, and I thought, wow, this guy knows his stuff. And so anyways, thought it would be cool for you to be able to dive into my music. And if there's a song you want me to do how I made this beat or how I produced this song, reason session breakdown in the future, leave a comment section below of which song you would like to see. Other than that, make sure you hit that like button because it actually is probably the most important thing here on YouTube. So if you like this option or if you like this video, YouTube will share this video with more people. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. Now I'm sharing my screen right now. Actually, one of the first things I want to talk about is the growth of a song, right? So the very first thing that happens when I think of a song is I usually just start writing the lyrics, or I have a melody that plays in my head. And so when I start making the song, the final version of the song is never what the original version of the song was or sounded like, right? And so I never did this before, but I decided to do this with Ghost. I wanted to really kind of save kind of the chapters in the production of the song. So when I'm done with the idea, and I actually create like just a rough map of what the song might sound like, and then I get into the sequencing phase where I put everything in line, and then I get into the mixing phase where I try to make it all sound better, and then I get into the mastering phase where I try to get it to radio level. And so I ended up saving this song in those phases just so I can give you a glimpse of where the song sounded when it first started and where it is now. And this is always interesting. I never like to share a song until it's done because some people will listen to the unfinished version of the song and actually like it better, right? They like it better than the final version of the song. And so I've never really shared or even wanted to share those kind of workflows because I feel like there are some people that will listen to it and they'll just say, I liked how it sounded before, not how it sounds now. And I understand that, right? We all have different opinions. So let me tell you exactly how Ghost started. So first of all, this is Reason. This might look like a lot for you, but first and foremost, there's your sequencer. So you have all the mixing levels and everything on the very top. So it's the mixer, and then you have the rack, which is all the individual sounds that make up the song. So, this is just a quick edit. You see that I just have a drum, something that I had called a slam, which is a snare, and then another snare. And then I had my main vocals, something called a boo, because you'll hear in this edit that I literally say boo in the song. And I didn't obviously keep that in the final version. And then I had a ghost sound, which is like something that was like a theme that I wanted to have in the production, that I wanted to have some sort of ghost sound in the background of the beat, right, to match the actual song. And then I had a flute and a choir. So again, what you're about to listen to right now when I play this is completely different from the final song. I just want to give you a glimpse of how it started. So this is how Ghost originally sounded when I first put it together.
She said, where the fuck you been? You been out the game, you been different. It don't make no sense. You ain't been the same. It's a shame. You got different friends. I don't understand. You was in, now you out again. She said,
so you get the idea. Really quick, rough breakdown. It's like, hey, I have this idea. Let me try to make it something real for a moment, and then I'll figure out the rest of it later. And so just put together a quick drum and snare. Had a really kind of wet drum in there, and then a wet snare, so it was very reverby. There was the Ghost sound, which is, it's literally just me. Actually, I can take off all of the effects from it and just show you what I sounded like. So that's it. I'm just there in the background going, oh yeah, 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 whoa. And then I just added a bunch of effects to it to try to make it sound more like a Ghost. Obviously did my verses. I had a little, it's just me in the background going boo, right? But it's at the same time of a snare, so you kind of don't really hear it too much. But I didn't end up keeping that in the final version, but, right, so just a weird thing that I was trying to do there. Let me go ahead and remove this, sorry about that. Okay, then I had a flute, that was just to kind of give that ambient noise. But obviously a lot of these sounds didn't end up in the final production. This was just so that I had a start, right? You know, you have a complete project at 100%, you have no project at 0%. And so this is me getting to like 25% of the way there, right? So then the next step would be to kind of figure out all of the individual sounds. You start to build out all the sounds, and then you sequence it over time. And so you start to get a better picture of how does this song gonna play out over time. And so now we have a little bit more detail. I have a drum, a snare, a rim shot, a tom, hi-hat, shake, riser, got a hit, a clap, the bass line. I have some strings. I have a piano, which I actually reversed. VS synth, which is usually my vocal synth. So it's almost all of my songs, I have something where I will record my own voice and then edit it. And then you have just a regular synth. And then I did a couple things on the right side of this song where I actually, when I started the verse, I had a whole bunch of different things get introduced, right? And so you can see that a choir gets introduced, which I actually built upon in later sequencings, or when I started getting into the mix. Obviously my mains, my backing vocals, and then my verse. And so now I have this song as it's mapped out over time, but it's not mixed and it's not mastered. So it doesn't really sound high res. And you're going to be able to hear that if I press play right now. So let me go ahead and do that.
she said, where the fuck you been? You been out the game, you been different. It don't make no sense. You ain't been the same. It's a shame. You got different friends. I don't understand. You was in, now you out again. She said, why you always got...
But you can hear the song starting to take shape, right? Then we get into the mix. And so now that we have a mix, you'll see that what I do in the mixing phase is I try to make every single sound have its own space inside of the mix. So some sounds, for example, will be leaning more towards the left. Some sounds will be leaning more towards the right. Some will be very full. Some will be closed. Some will have more reverb. Some will have less reverb. And so I'm trying to find like different spots to put the sound in so that nothing is competing against each other throughout the actual song. And so very, very time consuming process. This is definitely, I obviously understand why so many artists, just pay for mixing engineers or mastering engineers, because this is, it's a lot of detail. It's a lot of work that goes into mixing, compression. You can see just for each individual sound, I'll just use my drum, for example. So this is the drum sound. So no big deal. So you can hear the drum there, just running through a quick mixer. So that's just the sound. But then when it gets into here, there's a bunch of effects that I'll throw in. So this is the EQ that I have specifically for the drum. I run it through a stereo imager, which spaces it out. Then I run it through a compressor, which tries to even out the drum volume over the course of the track. as well as just add more pump, I guess, to it, and then maximize it so that it is pretty much actually at the highest volume I can possibly make it, and then I can use the mixer to now control the volume controls based on the rest of the sounds. So basically when I maximize it, I'll maximize all the sounds so they're just as loud as each other, and then I will use the actual mixer you can see here to identify, okay, well, how loud do I want this sound to be in relative to the other? But they need to start at the same level at the first place. So that's why I put the maximizer in there. So those are just the drum insert effects. Then when you get to the drum, you know, obviously you have the width that you do. There might be some other things that I throw in here, but I guess more importantly, I have just like a final EQ, which I don't have on this section because that's more something I do in the mastering phase. So that's what I'm looking at here when I'm mixing it through. So now let's go ahead and listen to what the song sounds like mixed, not mastered.
She said, where the fuck you been? You been out the game, you been different. It don't make no sense. You ain't been the same. It's a shame you got different friends. I don't understand. You was here, now you out again. She said, why you always gotta go ghost?
So definitely sounding a little bit more properly mixed. Everything has its own room. But then there's another challenge that happens, and this happens when you get into the mastering phase. The first thing is you want to make sure nothing's clipping. You want to make sure that nothing is basically going over decibels and just losing quality, right? You want to make sure that the quality is at its highest. And you also want to make sure that the quality of the sound matches across all platforms, right? And so that might be if I'm listening to it on my Amazon Alexa, or if I'm listening to it on my phone, or if I'm listening to it on my laptop, or my AirPods, which is where the most people listen to their music, or if I'm listening to it in my car, obviously another very important place where people listen to music. So I literally will take my laptop with me into my car and just drive around, or just sit at a Walmart parking lot or something, or a Target parking lot, and just play the song in my car, start tweaking things to make sure that the mix sounds great in my car, and then I'll come back, listen to it on my headphones, tweak a couple things, and then go back to my listening to it on my Alexa, and then listening to it on my phone, and just like rotating that around. And this process takes me so long because every tweak that you make in your car, for example, will eventually make an effect on your AirPods, and then tweak you make on your AirPods actually negatively impacts something you heard in your car, and it takes a while to make it sound right everywhere. It's honestly better to have a mastering studio. There are specific places that artists go to, or obviously mastering engineers have, that they can master their music just in that mastering studio, and they know that, okay, if it sounds good here, it'll sound good everywhere. Obviously I don't have a mastering studio, working from home, so this is just my workaround. This is what I do to try to make sure that it happens or gets to the best quality that it can be. And I'm definitely still getting better. I'm nowhere near being an expert at all this, but this is the final master for Ghost. And so I'll go ahead and play it for you as it is, just so you can hear what the final master sounded like.
She said, where the fuck you been? You been out the game, you been different. It don't make no sense. You ain't been the same. It's a shame you got different friends. I don't understand. You was here, now you out again. She said, why you always gotta go ghost on me? She said, why you always gotta go ghost on me? She said, you ain't.
So for me, definitely sounds night and day. Quality is just so much more better, more crisp. The drums are not, clapping against anything. The vocals are very crisp and clear throughout the song. You can also see that there's a lot more that I did on the very end. In terms of the choir, you can see that there's more choirs that I added, and the choir actually starts to expand. More different choir vocals get into the mix over the song, so it's kind of interesting. I just want you to notice over here how the volume actually never passes this line right here. So nothing ever clips, which means that every single sound is not losing any quality along the way, which makes sure that the overall production of the sound should be at its highest level.
My perception like it's easy. When I would love to see myself the way you see me, I can't do it. I fear the light and fight comfort in darkness.
So great. So I just walked you through essentially my process of taking a song from nothing to an idea, to a sequence, which is just mapping it out over time, to a mix, and to a master. So let's talk about all the individual sounds that I have inside of this song. What makes Ghost Ghost, right? So one of the things I do, this is just my own personal preference, is the first and foremost, what I'll do is I'll put a mixing channel that identifies what key am I in on the song. Just kind of helps me out whenever I'm trying to add something or change something, just to kind of know exactly what key I'm supposed to be in when I'm working on a new melody or anything. Just makes my workflow work a little bit easier. So I just make a mixing channel that just has my key signature. I wish there was actually just some sort of space somewhere on Reason. So Reason, if you end up watching any of these Reason session breakdowns, maybe down here, if I could just say, hey, I'm in this track is in E minor, or actually more specifically, because some songs change their keys over time, maybe there could be some place over here where I can map out what key am I in in a certain section of the song. But anyway, so that's one of the first things I do. Then I'll take all of my drum sounds and I'll bust them into a drum bus, right? So you can see right here that all of these sounds end up busing into these drums. And then these are actually all of the individual sounds, and I'll bust them into their own bus. So by busing, I just kind of group them together. So if I solo out just these sounds, for example, that's all you'd hear. Anything that's in this bus. So pretty cool. So I'll bus everything to the drums, everything to the sounds, everything to the leads, and everything to the backing vocals. So those are my 4 buses that always are in every single one of my tracks. And then I'll bus the drums and the sounds into an instrumental, and then I'll bus the leads and backing vocals into the acapella. So I'll have those final buses at the very right edge. So you'll see I have my main master, I got my instrumental and acapella, and then I have my backing bus and all the details, my lead bus and all the details, my sounds bus and all the details, and all my drum bus and all the details. So that's just how I organize it. Obviously, anybody has their own preference when it comes to these kind of things. So the first thing I have is just a pretty plain drum kick. Let me go ahead and play that for you. Boom, 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 boom. So just a pretty standard drum kick that starts it off. Not a lot of high end to it. I usually kind of remove the high end of the drums because I'll definitely have high end in hats. So I'll kind of remove the high end, give it a little bit more low end in the process, so that you can really hear the thud of the drums. So I do that. Moving forward, we have the snare. So let's hear how the snare sounds. It's actually more of a clap. Actually, when I think about it, it's more of a clap. Definitely take off all the low end. I don't need that to fight against my drums. It's more of a high end frequency anyway, so I'll increase the highs. So that's where I'm at with the clap. The snares would the rim shot is probably going to follow the same pattern, so not a lot of lows and definitely not a lot of highs. By the way, for anybody that's a musician listening to this, the mix is in the mid range. So always remember that you can fight a lot about trying to increase your high end or decrease your low end, or increase your low end and decrease your high end, whatever it is that you want to do, but it's all in the mid range. The mid range is where you actually get where all the sounds actually live. Not a lot of sounds are kind of super high or super low. So just keep that in mind. Your mix is actually here, right? This part right here is actually where it's most important. So there are some sounds that you just don't want them to have high resonance or low resonance, so you just go ahead and move those from the frequencies anyways. So rim shot, this just adds a little bit more into the drum pattern. So if I put in the drum and the snare, you'll hear the rim shot. So it's a little empty without the rim shot. Let's see where we're at. Okay. So then I have a tom. That's right there at the very end. It goes doom, 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 doom. Added the hi-hat. Just a little triplet in there. Triplet. Added a shake. It just goes every 4th beat. Actually, what's happening there, the reason why the sound drops, I remember talking to Elaine, who was actually on this song, actually my fan that came up with the term maniac, Got her to do a vocal. I'll talk about that in a second. But she always mentions that every single one of my songs has like a drop phase. And I definitely got that from 40 in terms of production style. He's obviously a huge, I've seen probably every single one of his interview videos on YouTube. But what I'll do is I'll like just add a filter. Well, not necessarily a filter. It's actually something that I learned from him, that what he does is he just removes the high end of the track. So there's a stereo imager that I put on here where I literally just remove the high end and just only play the low end of the sound. So it's the same quality sound, but it's just completely removing the high end. A lot of people put low pass filters instead, which is essentially the same thing. But this is just the way that 40 says he does it. And when I started doing it that way, I was like, yeah, this definitely works. So what's happening here is it's only letting the lows run through of the song. There's no high end at all, right? So let me actually backtrack so we can hear the rest of the beat. You can see that this is all automated, so to automatically click the bypass as things happen. Boom, let's go into the riser. So this will just come in as the beat is about to transition, which should be somewhere over here. So it's coming in right now. Then you have the hit, which you can see these hits right here. It's right there. Got a little clap. That's that clap on the second, so that it's a little more added effect. That's my whole drum pattern. So again, if I bust out just the drums, or if I played just the drum bus, this would be everything that you're hearing. Cool. So then I added in the sounds. I got my bass line. Which is dope because the bass line goes doom doom. So a lot of compression, a lot of mapping. So you can see actually this is actually a pretty cool feature of Reason, is that if I press this tab button, boom, you can actually see all the wiring, and that might look very ridiculous to a lot of people. But like I can actually see how all of my stuff is connected to each other. So I actually have a compressor running through my bass line that is connected directly to, actually I don't even know if I did that. Usually have that side chained in to my drums, but I guess I removed that for some reason on this particular song. But so what you can do is you can literally just rewire something. You can click right here and have it connect to something so that it connects together. Normally I will drum the main drums into the sidechain them into the bass line, so that it kind of every single time the bass hits the drums hit, the bass will lower just a little bit. Didn't do that in this song. There's a lot of different things that I do or don't do, and so I generally do that. But if I didn't do that, there was a reason why I didn't do that. The strings. So there's these are MIDI strings. You're probably not going to hear anything if I actually just solo that out, because what I actually did was I bounced the strings of the MIDI, which you can see them here, and this is actually the strings as it played out. And then I actually reversed it. So if I actually play what you hear, it takes those clips and reverses them up. Wait 1 second. Remove all the mutes. Hold on 1 second. See if I can get this to work. Okay, there you go. Let's see, you got the piano there. Oh, sorry, hold on. I'm actually soloing out the piano. I want to solo out the strings. All right, so sorry for the navigation on that. But basically, that is these strings playing in reverse. And then obviously I added some effects to it to try to make it a little bit more. But that's kind of like the haunting sound that I wanted this beat to have, so that it matched the actual lyrics. So I got that little bit of a haunting sound in there. I added the piano, not the same piano, but the same kind of piano string section, or the piano right there. So there's a little bit of a match between the reverse effect and the actual piano. Let's give it a little bit more touch. Added in my VS synth. So my VS synth is just me, again, doing my own vocal effect. I didn't do the exact same effect that I did in the original version, right? So if I go back to this version right here where I had the, right, the, oh, oh. So instead I just did this. And then I just repeated that. So I had that as the ghost effect. I actually felt like what was happening was there was too much ghost vocal effect and it was very distracting from the actual lyrics. So that's why I ended up removing that. Got a little bit of a synth. This is literally just, I think these are just my strings. Or no, I think these are bells that are going back and forth. Yeah. So what's cool about these bells, let me get to my synth over here. So you can actually see that okay. All right. I'm just confusing myself on all the different things that I did. So I actually ran through this panning effect. So I automated it. So if you actually look at this synth and as it plays out right here, you'll see this knob going back and forth. This is meaning that when you hear the sound, it actually sounds like it's going from the left ear to the right ear and back and forth. Just adds like a little bit of a cool effect to the overall synth sound. So just wanted to be something I did. So you can see it moving back and forth. So it's just ping-ponging back and forth through your ears. Another cool audio effect that you give to add some additional information, some additional detail into the overall song. So if somebody's listening to it on their headphones, they'll actually hear that ping-ponging back and forth whenever they're hearing that synth, which is cool. I do that in a couple of songs as well. I definitely know I did that in Let's Be Honest, but there's a bunch of different songs that I might have added that kind of effect to. Just have these extra strings that play in the background of the hooks, just to add a little bit more depth to the hook. So something really simple, but this actually just adds volume so that the chorus is kind of exaggerated so that people know I'm in a chorus section. That way when the chorus ends and it gets to the verse, obviously there's a drop because there's less sounds that are playing. So you see that I removed the piano, I removed the ping pong synth, I removed the string, that final string that was there. And it looks like that's it, right? That's all that I removed. And so it just kind of, with the lack of those sounds, the song sounds like it kind of goes down for a moment. Very simple. That's really it for the actual song. Then I wanted to do something a little bit different when I got to the last verse. I just had this choir idea, right? So that was kind of something that I was already playing with in the very first beginning portion where I had this like dark piano and choir. And I was like, how would it sound if I actually had a choir singing in the background? So I did this kind of MIDI, but I did some pretty exaggerated, chord progressions for this. So you can see that I actually changed some of my chord progressions as I worked with the choir. So made it sound really simple, but then I started working with the chord progression. So let's just play the choir as it is. 1 second. If I can get them to play. No, someone to talk to for the therapy sessions, but I swear those I get closest to. In 1 second, because I got. You know who you are. I've told secrets to strangers. I know that's kind of bizarre. I've been searching to find answers in places I least expect. Guess I just haven't been lucky yet. Or maybe I'm not asking the best questions. So that's the choir, more like a female choir at the start. You can see that I added in a second choir here. So if I go ahead and unmute this choir. So it just gets a little bit more full. Oh. So it just gets a little bit more full. And then I have a third choir here that comes in as well. So, and then what I did here was I actually panned the choirs out. So, okay, so you can see you're looking at these three choirs. Choir 1 goes all the way to the left, choir 2 goes all the way to the right, and choir 3 is in the center. But over here, choir 1 is just a little bit to the left, choir 2 is a little bit to the right, and at the very beginning, choir 1 is just all the way in the center. So what happens there is just like the actual choir just starts moving around to kind of give it a little bit more resonance. It's like if a choir was like walking into the room, and then the actual choirs that I had singing were moving along with them. And so kind of interesting idea, something I haven't really done, at least not in a production that I've distributed everywhere. Definitely done some things like this on songs that I probably never released, but just something that I did here. The last thing I added to this was just, the voicemail effects that you hear on the actual song. So literally just recorded my phone leaving a voicemail. There's a part of me that actually doesn't like this, and the reason why is because who are we? I don't know. Okay, I guess it's not too bad. Because so I guess if I'm thinking about it, when I listen to the voicemail, right, this sounds like I'm listening to a voicemail and not an actual person. But if I recorded this actually live in front of somebody, one of these two things would sound high quality because it would be right in front of me. So if I'm listening to the recording, well, then I would not get that voicemail message, right? And so since I'm getting that voicemail message, that means that the microphone would actually be in front of the person leaving the voicemail, meaning that her voice would not sound like a voicemail. Anyways, these are just stupid details that bother me. So I almost didn't do this just because of that, which is just, ridiculous. But I'm sure nobody's even really thought about that, or even with my explanation is probably still confused as to what the hell I'm talking about. But regardless, obviously I did not have Ivana or Elaine available to just actually record the voicemail. So I just asked them to send me audio messages to be able to add to the song. So I thought it was a really cool effect because it definitely added to what I was looking to do in the song, which was just talk about how I went ghost on a few people. And so I thought it was really cool that they were able to add that in. A couple people also mentioned that the voices don't sound different. It's two different people, right? So we have one person in the front, and then I have another person here. Oh, let me unmute. So, I think it's obvious to me that they're two different people, but obviously, if you're just listening to the songs that runs through, you probably don't really think too much about it. Obviously, I ran through EQing effects as well to make it sound more like a telephone than an audio message. And so that probably adds to that as well. One last thing that I did that I thought was pretty cool was I took my original vocals here in this song. So if you listen to the actual verse, obviously it says, "It ain't because of you that I be gone to. Please don't take it personal, it's not you." So what I did was I actually took those vocals and I added a ghost effect to it, and also had it panning from left to right. So it kind of sounds, or it looks a little haunting. So if you just listen to it, so it's just like in the background going, "You know that I need you and I want you, want you." Then I have the high effect and the low effect. So you can hear that. "It ain't cause of you that I be gone to, gone to, gone to." So obviously that's me, made it sound like a ghost, which I thought was really cool. I thought that was kind of a unique thing to add to the song. So another small minor detail in it. And then of course the song just kind of fades away at the very end. So, hey, that is a quick Reason session breakdown for my song Ghost. Hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight of the details in the song and some of the things that I go through in my creative process of making a song. And just kind of gives you some information about what is it like on my end. And so obviously this video I think is probably going to be somewhere close to like 35 minutes or so. But the actual song making process obviously is a lot longer than that. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. It really means the world to me that you listen. Definitely click right here to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And then click right here for a playlist of all of my music. And the very first song on the playlist is Ghost. And I will see you on the next video. Take care. Be great.